One sec, ma'am. I'll share you some link here. Kindly
Okay.
join there. No, this is showing some issues. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. I'm starting now.
Okay.
Good afternoon, dear friends. I welcome one and all for Saturday's webinar session by Hello Kids. Today we are going to learn about inculcating good habits during early childhood. To speak more about this, we have our guest, Pratima Patel. Welcome, ma'am. Pratima ma'am is an teacher trainer, academic planner. She represented the school in K-12 forums, establishing a blend of conventional method of teaching and technology. She is a finance controller, marketing strategy developer who nurtured strong relationship with stakeholders by providing resources on immediate requirements and getting timely payments. Welcome to Hello Kids, ma'am.
Thank you, Mamata, ma'am.
Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah. A very good afternoon to everyone there. So today the topic that I'm going to discuss about is inculcating good habits during early childhood. The proverb charity begins at home has often been repeated by our elders. But when we take a closer look, it refers not just to charity, but the inculcation of all good habits begins at home. From the time a child is born, they spend most of their time in the house's perimeters. This is obviously until the child starts going to school, usually at the age of 3 or 4. Most psychologists believe that the child begins to imitate their parents in actions and words. Thus, it would be fair to say that a child is the mirror of their parents. How many habits do we share in common with our parents? At a later stage, the horizon extends. School and the teachers add on to the list. There is a strong connect between the parents, teachers, and students. So, Mamata ma'am, can I have the PPT, please? Give me, yeah. Next slide, please. So this puts an immense responsibility on all of us to follow an ideal lifestyle that the children learn. This bond strengthens when we teach them essential life skills. Inculcating good habits at an early age can be a lifelong benefit for children. In the current modernized world, children are exposed to various stimuli that make them strangers to human values. Basic social skills like saying thank you, please, they've become a luxury now. So, I want the next slide, please. One of the common methods that used to teach good habits is positive reinforcement. Praising the child for good actions and correcting the wrong ones helps the child identify the right from wrong, thus making it a habit. So, that is lag in the network. So when I say positive reinforcement, it is always nice to say not good rather than telling bad. And even if the child commits a mistake anytime, we can always say, show them why was it wrong, what better could have been done. We all present ourselves as role models from whom the children learn. Children are young and impressionable and absorb the goof and bad like a sponge. The early childhood years can be dedicated to teaching them good habits like washing hands before a meal, gathering the toys after playing, and switching the lights off before leaving the room. The negative implications are lifelong if these impressionable years are not spent fruitfully. For example, when we move out of the living room and we're going into the bedroom, yes, it's always important that we switch off the light, fan, television, whatever we are using. So when children see us do this, they also start getting into a habit of doing these things. The habits of an adult can be traced to their childhood. Even as we as adults, when we commit some mistakes, so there is some influence of our childhood. Though we want to learn certain things, though we want to make sure that certain mistakes of ours are corrected, but habits don't leave us. So once children understand their role in the society, they can develop an good manners and qualities like kindness, empathy towards all, disciplining the child appropriately. All these things needs a lot of reinforcement of good habits. Something like setting ground rules, employing routines, like a simple routine, maybe like when the child gets up in the morning, you go and say good morning to the child, you say good morning to everyone at home, child obviously starts following it. And when this happens, in the long run, if you see, the kind of ego in us, when we feel like, why should I go and talk to someone and wait for someone else to come and talk to me, such things would be stopped. Small habits like reading 20 minutes a day. We all are so used to gadgets these days that books have become aliens for us. Drinking at least 8 glasses of water a day and greeting those around us, these things allow children to appreciate these habits which we are practicing as elders. But does our list of good habits end there? I have another list of words which which are like kind of familiar words to most of us by now. Something like explore, tolerance, acceptability, accountability, mindfulness, resilience, bounce back, down to earth. When did we get acquainted to these words? Is it like after we started a career? Or were these in the list of the good habits that were taught by our parents when we were kids? Of course, yes. We learned it then. And we as parents, teachers, we ought to teach these good habits to our children as well. Children these days are getting into the habit of accumulating things, right? They are so fond of gifts that we give. Like somewhere we are losing this attitude of creating memories. It is important to develop in them the attitude to fill life with experiences and not just things. They should have stories to tell, not just things to show others. Moving on to tolerance or acceptability. So, there is something called as emotional literacy. Emotional awareness, it means knowing when feelings are present in ourselves and others. It is closely related to like what we, which means like, being able to label the feelings with specific feeling words. So we as parents, especially, we hesitate to express our love and affection. And somewhere we are, in this dilemma. If I show love, lot of love to my child, who knows? My child might take me for granted, or it may be like I'm over pampering my child. So there isn't anything of that sort. You should actually express the right emotion at the right time. So when you do this in the long run, the emotional awareness develops in child. If we develop the habit of expressing our emotion before the children, They continue doing the same. Whenever we appraise or scold them, we should be able to tell them why. You just tell that you have to listen to me. So, will the child accept it? Will the child just take it that way? Okay, my mama is telling this, or my dad is telling this, my teacher is telling this, so I should stick to this. That doesn't happen. It always goes like whatever. The word don't is more favorite for children. So, when you say don't do something, they tend to do it more. So add a reason to it. When you're stopping your child from doing something, why is it being done? So this becomes a habit. So every time when a child wants to do something, he gets back into this habit of understanding, should he do it, shouldn't he do it? And if he wants to do it, if the child is deliberate on some action, then there is an inner question raised. Am I right? Why am I doing this? Is it going to be fruitful in any way? So this becomes a habit. Then accountability. So it can become a habit when we teach children that it is all right to commit mistakes, but it is not all right to repeat them, and it is not all right to blame someone else for our mistakes. So I have a slide here which is about accountability. So can I please have that slide? Yes. So if you look at this, when you teach children, when children get into the habit of being accountable, they understand where they stand. So this is one of the very important good habit. When a child usually commit mistakes at that age, early childhood, the child doesn't want to be blamed. So rather, children try to toss over the blame on someone and appear all good. So when this happens, they don't understand where do they stand. For that moment, if they are, saved from that, from being blamed, so that becomes another habit where they start feeling, okay, every time I do this, every time I toss on the blame, I am saved. So that is not something which should be accepted. You have to let the children understand, is he a victim or is he accountable? So listen to children. The moment they commit mistakes, it is not like you have to scold them or we have to punish them. So according to me, punishment is should not be the end result. Corrective measure should be the end result. So even when we punish a child, the outcome of that punishment should be a corrective measure. So that is where we make the child understand why is it important to be accountable. And this is one of the good habits. When I as a child learn to be accountable, I carry it throughout my actions. So no doubt I will be a successful person in the future. So the next thing which I want to tell about is mindfulness. So my slide says fill your plate with as much as you need. This, according to me, is a very important good habit that we have to teach our children. First thing, our children should know to eat healthy. When I teach them mindfulness, I will also teach them how much of what is essential. Like, it's obvious that every child likes junk food. But is it always okay to allow them to eat like that? Definitely not. So, here what we do is we teach them how much of junk food can be accepted by their body. At that age, of course, the child is not matured enough to understand healthy, unhealthy, but make it a routine. In your daily diet, if you're including everything that is essential for the child to eat, every kind of protein, vitamins, carbs. Studies prove that for children who are in Bangalore, groundnuts play a major role in adding to their protein requirement. Add that in the diet every day. So they get into the habit of eating groundnut on a regular basis. Green leafy vegetables. One part of the meal can be a curry which is cooked with green leafy vegetables. So, like that, we are making it a custom in the house where all these things are being served to the child on a daily basis. And I don't at all say that don't give them pizza, burger, and all. Obviously, Any child would love it. So let them have it, but not on a regular basis. Maybe like twice, once in a month, once in 2 months, wherein you're hanging out with them, showing them what does celebration means. Even that is important. So during that time, you allow them to have these things, and the next day you're back to the regular routine of food. So that is something which becomes like, you're inculcating that habit in them of the habit of eating healthy food. Apart from that, as my slide says, fill your plate with as much as you need. This is something which we should definitely teach our children. Wasting food is like, you're not valuing food. Show them the value of food. Teach them whatever is essential alone should be taken onto their plate, including the quantity. Small children, when you look at them at that early age, whatever is very tasty, they try to fill their plate with it. Whatever is not so tasty, they don't like it and they just leave it aside. So that should not be entertained by us. We should teach them why it is important and allow them to eat food like that. And then, moving on to my next slide, it is about resilience. So here, I'm sorry. So resilience can become a good habit, where I would like to add a small tip over here of having a fail board or a failure board. So this is where every time there is a failure that your child faces, put it onto this board and then add a measure to it where the child can rectify it. As simple as maybe you're playing a cowrie game with the child and the child loses the game. So the moment the child loses, the child starts crying. And because the child will cry, we as parents, what we do is, parents or even the teacher for that sake, what we will do is we will try to lose the game for the sake of the child, which is the worst thing as a parent I would be doing. When I show that I, as a parent, am also not ready to lose a game just because the child is mine, the child learns to accept that the world is like this. And when a game is being played, somebody should win and somebody should lose. So it's a norm. In that case, the child also learns to accept. And after accepting, you teach the child where did the child go wrong? What was that one thing which the child could have done differently, which could have added to the success? So that can teach them to stay focused on their journey towards success. So, moving on to the next one, down to earth. This, according to me, is the most important of the good habits which we have to teach children. So I agree when I say inculcating good habits for during early age. All that we think about is like we should teach them to greet people, we should teach them how to behave, we should teach them to be good listeners. All these things come into picture, while in all this list we forget that we also have to teach them and prepare them for the world. So when we start doing this before the children, when we start being down to earth before the children, see, we always as elders we learn that we should learn to balance our emotions. We should not get elated when things are going good, and at the same time we should not lose our hopes when things are going wrong. So why not make it a habit for the child? When the child is winning over something, appraise them, but don't allow them to be there. I'm sorry. Don't allow them to be in that elated state forever. After that, you have to teach them, yes, this was where you achieved something. Now you have to move on to the next stage. There is something more to it. Excuse me. And if at all the child fails, as I spoke about the cowrie game thing and all, don't let your child sit and sob for it for a longer time. There can always be another way where the child can win over that again. So teach them, it is important. It is important that they have to understand neither being elated all the time is good, Not being low on losing is good. So this, according to me, is also important as teaching good habits for the students. So now the next thought would be like, how do we do this? We cannot enforce everything on the child. Right from the day one, if at all we start doing these things as our habits. Like, I also become a parent when my child is born. Every new batch I receive, I am a new teacher to them. From that students, I will also be learning new things as a teacher. So my age is the age of the child which I'm teaching, and as a parent my age is the age of my child as a parent, right? So when we think about things like this, we don't become rigid as like, I know things better. So we have a standard, maybe a standard dialogue that we have heard from our parents. If I'm not wrong, most of the parents have told us in our childhood, like, I was not like you when I was a child. My parents did not tolerate me as much as I am tolerating you, which is a standard sentence which parents pass on to the children, generation by generation. That doesn't mean, like, there is some generation gap which is existing between us and the children. And it is not like, so when I say that, am I not as capable as my parent? Am I making that statement? When I say my parent, I did not trouble my parent as much as you are troubling me. Maybe my parent had disciplined me more, which I have not done with my child. So if at all we talk about things like this, they are controversial. We can give different angles to these. But getting back to the habits which I'm talking about, so I, as a parent, as a new parent, or as a parent who is as a maybe 5-year old, 6-year old, mend my ways, or as a teacher, like, I, as a teacher, I use pouch filled with pen and stationery. I unzip the pouch when I'm teaching the children and leave it open like that and continue teaching. But I expect my children to zip their bag when they are sitting, and when they're after taking the books out of their bag. So that doesn't make sense. So if I follow that, looking at me, my children also start following it. I, as a parent, am not on the gadget for a longer time, and I'm spending time with the family, with books, or with something which we as parents feel is good, or which we as parents want our children to do. Probably our children also fall into the same line. So that is how we are inculcating good habits. We have to do what we are expecting from our children. We have to practice that, show it to them what good habits are, how is it to follow these good habits, and that is how we inculcate these habits in the children. So let's tell our children that they are free to soar as high as they want. Sky is the limit. It is indeed true that old habits die hard, because habits learned during early childhood accompany us to the grave. So we should focus on good habits right from our early age, shouldn't we? Thank you, Mamata ma'am, for providing me this opportunity to address. Thank you, Hello Kids. So this is where I end this. So if anybody has any questions to be answered, like, you can ask me.